There's something sitting in your home right now that seems harmless, ordinary, even comforting. It's in your kitchen, maybe on your shelf, maybe in a bar next to the stove. And yet, if you've placed it wrong, even by just a few feet, it could be quietly pulling wealth out of your life, draining your home's energy and blocking opportunities you never realized you were pushing away. That something is salt. Not the spiritual kind, not the symbolic kind, just plain everyday salt. But salt, when used through the lens of Feng Shui, is one of the most sensitive and reactive materials you can work with. And most people, without knowing, are using it backwards. They're putting it in the wrong places. They're keeping it for too long. They're surrounding it with clutter, or placing it next to items that completely neutralize its natural properties. Then they wonder why the rituals don't work, why the protection feels hollow, why the abundance never shows up. It's not superstition, it's structure. And when structure is broken, even by something as small as a salt jar, the results echo into every corner of your home. In this video, we're going to dismantle a quiet but common mistake: placing salt in energetically dangerous spots. You'll learn which 5 places to avoid completely, and more importantly, why avoiding them matters. You'll also learn how to use salt correctly, how to anchor it into the right type of container, how often to change it, and what to pair it with if you want it to actually hold and manage energy the way it's meant to. Salt is not lucky, it's responsive. It doesn't generate fortune, but it clears the space so fortune can actually enter. Think of it like a reset button for the chi of your home. But press that button in the wrong room, and you're not clearing the way. You're disconnecting the flow. And no amount of incense, crystals, or affirmations can override a fundamental design mistake. The real power of salt in Feng Shui doesn't come from belief. It comes from placement. This mineral is forged by the fusion of 2 powerful elements, water and fire. That means it carries both movement and purification. But because it absorbs everything, it needs to be placed away from chaos, from sharp transitions, from emotional echo chambers. That's why, throughout history, salt was buried in thresholds, tucked beneath floorboards, or placed behind doors, not for magic, but for memory, to trap the wrong kind of energy and keep the right kind in motion. But today, people place it next to sinks. They put it on dining tables. They leave it out long past its functional life cycle, expecting it to still hold power. That's not intention, that's decay. And this video is your guide to reversing that damage. So stay with me, because by the time we finish, you won't just know where to avoid putting salt. You'll understand why its correct use can strengthen the very architecture of your life field. You'll have clarity, and more importantly, you'll have precision. Because precision in placement equals precision in energy. And in the practice of Feng Shui, nothing supports long-term wealth, health, and harmony like a space that reflects clarity instead of confusion. But before we go deeper into this, before I take you room by room and break down exactly where salt becomes a silent block, I want to ask you one small favor. If you value content like this, calm, researched, and grounded in energetic principles, not superstition, please give this video a like. It helps more than you think. Share it with a friend who's been struggling with home energy or stuck finances. And if you haven't already, subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. Your support helps me reach my next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. And when we hit it, I'll be able to bring you even more detailed, layered content on how to design your space with intention, so your life has room to breathe, grow, and succeed. So, are you ready to find out where salt should never go, and why it might be silently weakening the flow you're trying to build? Let's begin, because energy doesn't wait, and neither should you. The true role of salt in Feng Shui: salt has always carried an unmistakable energetic presence. Quiet, potent, and misunderstood. In Feng Shui, it belongs to the earth element, which is known for stability, weight, and absorption. This means salt doesn't project energy outward, it draws energy inward, collecting not only physical moisture from the air, but also invisible energetic residue that accumulates in human environments. It is not a symbol of luck, and certainly not a charm. Its power lies in its density, its ability to hold and trap the energetic noise that otherwise clouds the qi in your space. But this same strength can become its downfall if misused. That's where many people go wrong. The most common misconception is that more salt equals more protection. People assume that scattering bowls of salt in multiple rooms or piling it generously in corners will supercharge their luck or cleanse negativity. But that's not how energetic tools work. In fact, overuse of salt in a space that hasn't been properly evaluated leads to the opposite effect. Instead of cleansing the environment, it begins to suppress it. Salt is indiscriminate. It absorbs both beneficial and harmful energy. It cannot tell the difference between stagnant qi and supportive flow. That's why placement and context are everything. When salt is dropped into high-traffic energy zones or placed near important energetic centers of a home, it can easily become a trap for the very energy you want to grow: clarity, prosperity, emotional harmony. To understand this, let's compare salt to something more familiar: a sponge. You wouldn't place a sponge in your wallet hoping it absorbs wealth. You wouldn't toss one into your wardrobe to attract confidence. You place a sponge in areas of overflow, places where something is spilling or leaking, where the excess needs to be held, not spread. Salt operates the same way. It's a tool of extraction, not expansion. It helps draw out what doesn't belong, but only when positioned in zones where excess, confusion, or energetic buildup has already occurred. In these zones, it behaves like a quiet vacuum. Subtle, consistent, absorbing until full. That's also why the lifespan of salt is limited. In Feng Shui, salt is considered a living energetic filter. It pulls in qi until it's saturated. At that point, it no longer acts as a helper, it becomes a hazard. A bowl of salt left out for too long becomes not just ineffective, but toxic to the space around it. People who don't know this often leave salt out for months, believing that its presence alone continues to protect them. But stale salt behaves like a sponge full of dirty water. It starts to release what it has absorbed, reintroducing the very energy you were trying to clear. Furthermore, salt is affected by its environment. Humidity, temperature, and light all influence how quickly it absorbs energy. In homes with frequent emotional tension, heavy traffic, or unresolved grief, salt will fill up much faster. In drier, quieter homes, it may last longer, but only to a point. This is why checking the condition of your salt bowl is not optional. If it's clumping, sticky, or has begun to sweat against the container, it is already saturated. At this point, it's not working for you. It's quietly reversing course, holding stagnant qi in place, or even feeding it back into the environment. Energetically, it has crossed a threshold from being a filter to becoming a loop. Another layer to consider is the material that holds the salt. In Feng Shui, the container shapes the field of any object. Ceramic and clay are preferred because they stabilize earth energy. They don't conduct excessive external qi, and they help the salt retain its grounding quality. Plastic, on the other hand, insulates. It blocks the salt from breathing. Metal intensifies. It accelerates the salt's breakdown and can introduce a sharper frequency that disrupts the calming, absorbing quality salt is supposed to hold. That's why choosing the right bowl matters, not aesthetically, but energetically. Every component of this practice either supports the salt's function or undermines it. Even color matters. Earth tones like beige, brown, or matte white are neutral and grounding. Bright colors like red or orange overstimulate the area, which creates conflict between the function of the salt and the message of the color. If you've placed salt in a fire-colored bowl on a shelf above eye level in a red-painted kitchen, the energy becomes chaotic. It's as if you told the salt to absorb, but then surrounded it with signals that shout, "Ignite." This kind of contradiction confuses the field. And in energy design, confusion is the most common source of friction and energetic fatigue. All of this boils down to one critical truth. Salt is not about belief, it's about clarity. It works when you understand what kind of energy you are trying to manage and when you place it in a way that allows it to do so. Used correctly, it supports chi flow, anchors emotional neutrality, and softens environmental noise. Used incorrectly, it chokes beneficial momentum, misdirects attention, and reinforces stagnation. That's why in Feng Shui, we do not place salt everywhere. We place it where it is needed, and we monitor what it becomes. So if you have ever thought placing a bowl of salt under your bed would help you sleep better, or if you've put it on your living room table hoping to bring harmony, you may have unknowingly created energetic congestion instead of clarity. This isn't your fault. The internet is full of rituals that lack depth or strategic framing, but the correction is simple. Know what the salt is doing, know where it is, know what surrounds it, know when to replace it, and above all, treat it like a temporary assistant, not a permanent solution. Because even the best assistant, if left unattended, eventually stops helping and starts hindering. The lesson here isn't about becoming obsessed with rules. It's about remembering that energetic tools require boundaries. Salt is powerful, but only when it is placed with precision and maintained with awareness. The moment it becomes an afterthought, it loses its integrity. And when that happens, it doesn't neutralize bad energy, it becomes part of it. So now the question becomes, where should you never place salt if you want it to work properly? Let's begin with the most common and damaging mistake people make, often with the best of intentions, but with consequences they never expected. Because in Feng Shui, it's not just the material that matters, it's the placement that defines the outcome. Let's dive in. 5 places you should never place salt. Number 1, under the bed or headboard. Placing salt beneath the bed, especially near the headboard or central body alignment, is one of the most misunderstood and energetically harmful actions in home arrangement. While it may seem like a subtle decision or a small, harmless attempt at purification, this single placement has the potential to interfere with the most essential function of your bedroom: deep cellular restoration. In Feng Shui, the bed is not just furniture. It is an energetic chamber, a sanctum where your body recalibrates, your subconscious processes information, and your emotional field softens into coherence. Every object in its proximity is either supporting or disturbing that process, and salt, despite its protective reputation, can become a disruptive presence when placed underneath this highly receptive zone. Salt's nature, as we've established, is to absorb indiscriminately. It draws in surrounding energy without bias, whether that energy is stagnant, emotionally heavy, chaotic, or beneficial. Under the bed, it is constantly exposed to the personal chi of the person sleeping above it. This is not just about energy in abstract terms. The lower half of your bed holds a direct relationship to your base chakra, your sense of security, grounding, and long-term direction. The upper half, especially beneath the headboard, aligns with the energy of thought, sleep rhythm, memory, and emotional processing. If salt is absorbing from both of these fields night after night, the impact compounds. You may begin to notice things you can't explain. Waking up exhausted despite a full night's sleep, struggling with emotional flatness or brain fog, or feeling like your rest isn't truly restful. Over time, you may also experience heightened sensitivity, internal noise, or even physical symptoms such as headaches, heart palpitations, or neck tension, especially if the salt is placed too close to where the head rests. Another dimension to consider is that sleep is not just biological, it's energetic. It is a cycle where your conscious mind releases control and your energy field opens, often becoming more vulnerable to environmental influence. If a salt jar or pouch is sitting under your mattress, silently drawing in surrounding vibrations, then you are sleeping in a field of energetic pull, not rest. Imagine trying to meditate in a room with a vacuum cleaner running quietly in the background. It may not be loud, but it constantly tugs at your attention. Salt under the bed does something similar. It tugs at your child. The results are subtle at first, but cumulative. Many people assume these symptoms are caused by stress, poor diet, or overwork, never realizing that the interference is right beneath them, held in a decorative bowl they forgot was even there. From a symbolic perspective, the bed represents support. It is the structure that holds you during your most unguarded hours. Introducing a strong, absorbing substance beneath it is like drilling small, energetic holes into that support. You don't feel the collapse immediately, but night after night, the depletion becomes real. And in Feng Shui, chronic depletion in rest zones eventually leads to erosion in decision-making, lowered immunity, diminished financial clarity, and relational instability. Why bustle? Because without energetic rest, outward action becomes reactive. You are not responding to life, you are surviving it. And survival mode is the antithesis of prosperity flow. Correcting this mistake doesn't require drastic change. It requires strategic substitution. Instead of using salt beneath the bed to absorb mental fog or stress, use grounding elements that don't pull energy inward but simply stabilize it. A small piece of sandalwood or clean bark placed beneath the mattress near the foot of the bed helps to regulate overly active thoughts without interfering with your vital force. A smooth river stone or obsidian pebble wrapped in natural cloth and placed near the headboard can offer quiet anchoring for emotional clarity without absorbing your field. These materials don't vacuum energy. They reinforce structure, helping the mind settle and the breath deepen without extraction. Placement also matters. If you're dealing with energetic heaviness in the room and feel compelled to use salt, position it away from the bed entirely, preferably in a corner near the doorway, placed inside a ceramic bowl with a lid or cloth cover. This allows it to absorb entry-level noise without sitting directly in your sleep field. Salt can still be useful in a bedroom context, but only when given distance, containment, and boundaries. Another consideration is timing. If your instinct to place salt under the bed came from a moment of emotional overwhelm, a breakup, a period of illness, financial anxiety, understandable. We often reach for cleansing tools during moments of energetic confusion, but those are the very moments when discernment matters most. Salt may absorb the pain you're trying to release, but in doing so, it may continue to hold you in that energetic echo. Instead of lifting the grief or fear, it collects it and sleeps under you like a shadow. If you've placed salt in your bedroom during a hard chapter of your life, now may be the time to dispose of it. Do so with quiet intention. Don't just throw it in the trash. Dissolve it in water and release it down a drain. That signals to your space and to yourself that the chapter is complete, that you are not carrying it into your future by accident. To summarize, salt beneath the bed, no matter how well-intentioned, turns a rest space into a drain zone. It interrupts energetic release, slows psychological integration, and dulls the body's natural repair systems. It may offer a short-term sense of cleanliness, but long-term, it fosters depletion. Replace it with grounding symbols, not absorbing ones. Use salt at room thresholds, not within the core of your sleeping structure. And if you've already placed it under your bed in the past, remove it with awareness. Notice how your sleep changes. Notice how your mood shifts. Notice whether your dreams return or your focus sharpens. These changes are not mystical, They are the result of restoring energetic logic to your most intimate space. Because in Feng Shui, the bed is not where you place energy tools. It's where your life force meets stillness. And stillness, when protected correctly, becomes strength. Number 2, bathrooms or laundry areas. Bathrooms and laundry areas are the two most misunderstood zones in Feng Shui when it comes to energetic maintenance. And unfortunately, they're also the places where people often feel compelled to place salt bowls. It seems logical at first glance. These are damp, dense, and energetically messy areas. So why not use salt to clean or absorb the bad energy there? But this is where subtlety matters. In reality, these spaces aren't just chaotic. They're designed to release. Water flows out, waste flows out, heat and humidity rise and dissipate. These rooms are constructed for exit, not containment. And salt, by its very nature, is a stabilizing absorber. When you place an absorber in a zone designed to drain, you create energetic conflict. The salt tries to hold, the room tries to push. The result? Friction, imbalance, and over time, exhaustion, both in the energy field and, more critically, in your finances. Let's begin with the bathroom. In Feng Shui, bathrooms represent leakage, not just of physical water, but of qi. The act of flushing, draining, rinsing, scrubbing, all are metaphors for letting go. But when that release is unmanaged, it becomes too much. Qi doesn't just flow away, it escapes without boundary. That's why traditional homes in ancient Asia were extremely strategic about bathroom location, often placing them away from central energetic pathways or shielding them behind double doors or screens. When you drop a bowl of salt into this already vulnerable zone, especially near the toilet or next to the sink, the salt takes on too much. It tries to balance a space that was never meant to be balanced. It was meant to be purged. And so it becomes saturated quickly, losing effectiveness within days or even hours in high-use areas. But the deeper problem is not just about the salt losing power, it's about what it takes in while it's sitting there. In a bathroom, the salt is absorbing more than humidity. It's pulling in energy that was supposed to exit fully. Instead, it traps remnants of stress, illness, decay, and anxiety, emotional residue from mere confrontations, rushed mornings, tired evenings. And when that salt becomes overloaded, it no longer cleanses, it holds. And the energy it holds starts to loop. You flush it away, and yet somehow the weight doesn't leave. You clear the mirror, but the mental fog returns. You shower off tension, but the unease creeps back in. Why? Because the salt didn't complete the process, it interrupted it. The result? A slow but steady drain on your vitality, your sense of internal clarity, and over time, your financial cohesion. Yes, finances are affected by what happens in the bathroom, not because the universe is watching your plumbing, but because Feng Shui understands that when Qi is leaking unchecked in your release zones, your personal energy becomes too focused on survival, not expansion. The subconscious receives a message that energy doesn't stay, it vanishes. That money doesn't circulate, it disappears. And if you keep replacing the salt without changing this context, you're not solving the problem. You're amplifying it. The same principles apply in laundry rooms. These spaces, while less symbolically intense than bathrooms, are still release zones. They manage what is dirty, what is stained, what must be rotated out. They are active cleansing environments. Salt in such areas becomes overwhelmed for similar reasons. It pulls in everything, not just negative chai, but the frequency of repetition, scrubbing, labor, and unfinished cycles. In homes where the laundry area is located near a back door or close to the wealth corner, this can be particularly problematic. Salt that's absorbing chaotic energy in these locations can inadvertently contribute to difficulty saving money, unexpected expenses, or frequent outflow experiences. Broken appliances, auto repairs, random service bills. Again, not because of magic, but because the energetic field of the home is getting the signal that containment is impossible. Everything ends up in the drain. Now let's be clear. This doesn't mean salt must never enter a bathroom or laundry room, but the context must shift. The only time salt belongs in these rooms is for deliberate, short-term purification. For example, after illness, emotional trauma, or if you've moved into a space that had disruptive prior energy, placing a covered bowl of salt water on a high shelf into the bathroom for 7 days can help neutralize residual energy. It must be sealed or tucked away, not exposed near the toilet or open sink. After 7 days, it must be discarded in running water, not dumped into the trash. That is the energetic equivalent of releasing the stored tension back into flow, not into stagnation. Beyond that specific case, salt has no long-term function in these zones. So what do you do instead? You focus on reducing energy leakage through practical design. Fix water leaks immediately, not just for physical reasons, but because leaks are energetic hemorrhages. Keep toilet lids closed, doors to bathrooms shut when not in use, and avoid mirrors directly facing the door or toilet, which bounce qi in the wrong direction. Uses grounding materials, wooden bath mats, dark toned fabrics, frame prints with natural landscapes to encourage earth element support. Keep the space clean and minimal. And if scent is important, choose grounding aromas like cedarwood, clove, or frankincense. Never citrus, which increases movement in an already active zone. In laundry areas, keep your detergents and supplies neatly contained in opaque boxes or baskets. Avoid exposed clutter. Hide electrical cords. And if the space is windowless, place a living plant nearby to oxygenate and circulate soft qi, pothos, or snake plant work well. The goal is not to cleanse the space over and over. It's to design it to need less cleansing in the first place. In the end, salt is a filter. Filters work best where the field is steady, where absorption has purpose, and where maintenance can be observed. Bathrooms and laundry rooms are not steady, they are functionally turbulent, and so salt here becomes misapplied effort. The better strategy is to manage design, behavior, and placement in a way that reduces the need for salt altogether. Reserve its strength for entrance areas, transition zones, and energetic corners, not the exits. Because when you let the exits be what they are and manage them with clarity, your energy doesn't fight to stay. It chooses to stay. And that choice is the foundation of any home that supports wealth, health, and emotional stability. Number 3, kitchen countertops or tables. The kitchen has long been revered as the energetic heart of the home. In Feng Shui, it is more than a cooking space. It is the engine of prosperity, nourishment, and family connection. When energy flows properly in the kitchen, abundance follows. Not just financial abundance, but emotional and relational richness. Meals are prepared with care. Conversations happen naturally. The space radiates a warm frequency that reinforces stability. But this balance is fragile, especially when disrupted by a misunderstood placement of one of the most deceptively powerful materials in Feng Shui: salt. The common mistake many people make is placing bowls of salt openly on kitchen countertops or in the center of dining tables, believing it will cleanse or protect the home. In reality, this placement directly contradicts the energetic function of the kitchen. The kitchen is a fire-dominant space: stoves, heat, transformation. In the 5-element cycle, fire fuels the earth element. Salt, being of earth, appears supportive, but that assumption oversimplifies the energy dynamic. While salt is indeed an earth element, its functional property is absorption. It absorbs not only environmental qi, but the very warmth and motion that fire generates. And when that absorption happens in a fire-based space, it can lead to a subtle, energetic cooling, an internal dampening of what should be a vibrant, uplifting flow. Let's take this further. When you place it on a kitchen counter, especially in an open bowl, it begins to pull from its surroundings. This includes the rising energy from cooking heat, the intention behind meal preparation, the emotions present in shared conversations. These are not superstitions. These are energetic exchanges that occur in every home, visible in how food tastes richer when prepared with love, or how family arguments often intensify when meals are eaten in a rush. The kitchen holds these vibrations, and salt, when placed in the middle of them, begins to filter out the warmth. Not the negativity, just the qi itself. It acts like a sponge dropped into a pot that was meant to boil. The fire's not gone, but the heat is dulled. Over time, this can manifest as emotional distance among family members, lack of appetite for both food and connection, nor a slowdown in professional growth, especially if the kitchen lies in your home's wealth or career direction sectors. Even worse is placing salt in the center of a dining table. The table in Feng Shui is a place of qi gathering, a circle of nourishment. It represents shared intentions, communion, mutual understanding. When salt is placed at its core, particularly when uncovered and surrounded by daily activity, it creates a field of subtle depletion. It absorbs the shared energy before it can circulate. Conversations feel shorter. Meals feel less satisfying. Guests feel less at home, and eventually, even household members may begin choosing to eat separately or in isolation. It's not that the salt has caused these issues, but that its presence has disrupted the natural qi pattern that holds family harmony together. Now, some may argue that salt in the kitchen is traditional, and that's partly true. Many cultures have long kept salt in visible jars as a sign of resource abundance. But those jars were sealed. They were placed near the stove or tucked into cabinets, not scattered across preparation zones. The difference lies in intention and exposure. When salt is stored correctly, it symbolizes readiness, grounding, and preservation. When left exposed in a high-energy fire space, it mutates into an energetic suppressor. So how do we correct this without removing salt entirely from the kitchen? The answer is balance and containment. If you want to keep salt near the stove, which can be energetically useful when done right, place it in a closed ceramic container with a lid and balance it with wood or fire elements. A sprig of fresh rosemary or basil nearby, a red dish towel, or a small wooden spoon can help harmonize the space. These elements reinforce the fire cycle, reminding the space to stay active and nourishing, while the salt quietly serves as a background stabilizer, not a dominant absorber. Never use salt as decor on your kitchen island or dining table. If you must purify the kitchen after illness or a difficult emotional period, use a saltwater solution in a hidden container for no more than 24 hours, and then dispose of it thoughtfully. That is cleansing with precision, not pattern. The same principle applies to kitchen corners or shelves. If you feel the need to place symbolic items there, choose objects that support life and movement. A bowl of fresh fruit, a jar of rice, a bunch of green onions and water. These all anchor prosperity without neutralizing the qi. Salt, by contrast, must be used sparingly and respectfully, not as a visual element, but as a functional one. Finally, take note of how your kitchen feels. Does it feel warm and alive when you cook? Do conversations start easily at your table? Do you feel inspired to eat well, to nourish yourself and others? If not, check your salt placement. It may be doing exactly what it was designed to do, absorb, but in the wrong place, at the wrong time, and with unintended consequences. In Feng Shui, the smallest item can tilt the energy of a room. Salt is not just seasoning, it's structure. And where structure belongs is never accidental. So remove the open salt from your counters. Restore the fire. Let the kitchen breathe. Let your meals nourish. Let your home, beginning with the heart of it, radiate abundance again. In Feng Shui, children's rooms and creative spaces are not just areas of rest or work. They are zones of active developmental qi. These environments require movement, color, inspiration, and above all, living energy. They are where curiosity forms, where imagination grows, and where future direction begins to crystallize. And because these spaces are constantly generating new, unshaped energy, they need stimulation, not suppression. That's why placing salt in these rooms, even with the best intentions, is one of the most energetically counterproductive mistakes you can make. Salt is inherently still, dense, and absorptive. It does not discriminate in what it collects, whether it's lingering tension, electronic agitation, or pure, vibrant life force. In a child's room, this means it pulls on the very energy that gives the child vitality, resilience, and focus. It doesn't cleanse in this context, it dulls. The impact may not be immediate, but it often reveals itself subtly. A child who used to be imaginative becomes more withdrawn. Creative enthusiasm drops. Sleep becomes inconsistent, or learning plateaus, especially in areas that require self-expression or problem solving. The child may not know how to articulate it, but their field does. And when their environment stops feeding their growth, their qi contracts. The same applies to adult creative zones. Whether it's a home studio, writing nook, art space, or idea wall, creativity is fire-fed and water-guided. It needs motion, not absorption. Salt introduces energetic dryness. It doesn't inspire new ideas. It absorbs unformed ones. Many artists or creators who've placed bowls of salt on their desks or shelves, hoping to cleanse mental fog, unknowingly mute their own momentum. They think they're helping themselves focus. But what they've done is disrupt the gentle circulation of inspiration that creative environments need. Instead of clarity, they often experience long dry spells, self-doubt, or a looping frustration with unfinished ideas. Let's take a step further into the child's room. In Feng Shui, children's zones benefit most from the wood element: growth, movement, light vertical energy. Placing salt, a grounding earth element, in an exposed bowl on a desk, windowsill, or beneath the bed reverses that signal. It tells the field, hold, slow, contract. Over time, the subconscious of the child reads this signal not as protection, but as hesitation. It begins to limit how freely they express their own curiosity and emotional connection. And if the child is already sensitive or intuitive, the effect can be more pronounced. Heightened mood swings, fear of being alone, or sudden resistance to tasks they once enjoyed. Creative adults are equally impacted. Consider someone working on a passion project who places a bowl of salt next to their laptop or sketchbook. Their intention may be to keep the space clean of negativity, but salt doesn't know what's negative or creative. It simply draws. And what it often ends up absorbing is the energetic fuel behind the very ideas they're trying to develop. The result? Great beginnings that never finish, high energy that collapses, self-judgment instead of flow. This isn't psychological, it's environmental. So what should you use instead of salt in these spaces? In children's rooms, use symbols of movement and vitality. Live plants like bamboo or pothos encourage growth and recycle qi efficiently. Light wooden furniture, sky-colored curtains, soft vertical patterns. These support gentle upward energy. On desks, place a small globe, a cup of colored pencils, or a rotating calendar. Objects that invite engagement, not closure. Images of rivers, trees, or open skies are far better than closed containers of salt. In creative adult zones, introduce elements that encourage internal motion. Small fountains, textured inspiration boards, candles for fire chai, or music that moves chai audibly. If clarity is needed, use light, not salt. Open a window, clear clutter, burn a single stick of high-quality incense for 5 minutes. But do not place an object designed to absorb energy into a space that needs it to circulate. And what if you have already placed salt in one of these zones? Simply remove it. Do not overthink it. Just relocate it to a more suitable area of the home, an entry threshold, a closed cabinet near the front door, or a hallway corner that tends to feel heavy. Then observe how the room shifts. You may be surprised how quickly color returns to the energy field. The child sleeps better, dreams more vividly, becomes more open. The adult creator feels lighter, less tangled in their own expectations. These are not coincidences. They are reflections of energy field responsiveness. Remember, salt is not inherently bad. It is simply misused when placed in zones that require expansion. The rooms where creativity lives are not meant to be cleaned. They are meant to be activated. In Feng Shui, we never suppress life force in places designed to cultivate it. We channel it, we guide it, we reflect it, but we never absorb it away. So keep salt out of children's rooms and creative zones. Not because of superstition, but because growth requires movement. And salt, if placed wrong, stops movement in its tracks. Let these spaces breathe. Let them pulse with color and music and light. And if they feel stuck, don't dry them out. Open them up. That's how chi moves. That's how potential grows. And that's how the quiet art of the spatial clarity becomes a foundation for human brilliance at every age. Number 5, living room displays, shelves, or altars. Living rooms are where energy meets people daily. It's the zone where chi gathers and disperses most frequently. In Feng Shui, this is considered a public center of the home, where family connection, guest energy, conversation, and environmental flow converge. It is one of the most active, socially charged, and emotionally imprinted spaces in your home. Every word spoken here, every mood exchanged, every glance across the coffee table becomes part of the room's energetic signature. That's why the way you use symbolic objects in this space matters deeply. And salt, when placed incorrectly, can quietly become one of the most disruptive elements in this delicate field. Nowhere is this more common than on living room displays, shelves, or personal altars. People place salt here thinking it protects the room, absorbs negativity, or keeps harmony. And while the intention is right, the execution is flawed. Because when salt is left exposed on a visible surface, especially on a shelf or altar, it behaves like an open, energetic vacuum. It pulls indiscriminately from everything in its visual and energetic radius. And in a space filled with conversation, shifting emotions, daily stress, or visiting energy, what it ends up absorbing is not just negativity, it's everything. The warmth of connection, the tone of laughter, the subtle trust in family silence. Over time, that absorption begins to change the quality of the room. You may start to notice a sense of edge, subtle irritation among family members, harder conversations, awkward pauses that never used to happen. You might notice that guests don't linger like they used to, or that the room feels unsettled even after being cleaned. There's a kind of static in the air, an invisible draining current. The space feels pulled instead of held, and often the cause isn't psychological, it's environmental. The salt on your altar or display shelf has become overloaded. It's stopped filtering. It's now leaking. Let's be clear, altars by their nature are expressive. They are places of offering, symbolism, and emotional connection. Whether they are spiritual, ancestral, or simply aesthetic, they are meant to project upward, not to absorb downward. When you place a bowl of salt at the center or edge of an altar, you're anchoring something that doesn't belong. Salt pulls while altars transmit. The contradiction becomes immediate. Your symbolic items, candles, incense, photos, handwritten wishes, are no longer radiating intention. They're being pulled into a quiet sponge that sits silently on the same surface. The result? A muted altar, a blocked prayer, an effort to connect with clarity that instead feels like it evaporates into dust. Even on non-altar display shelves, the issue persists. These shelves often hold items of emotional memory, travel souvenirs, awards, books, family photos. They're places where identity, reflection, and personal joy are placed in physical form. Salt has no business sitting beside them. Its presence introduces an energetic undercurrent of depletion. It dulls the frequency of inspiration. And when it becomes a permanent fixture, month after month, exposed to sunlight, air, conversation, arguments, even laughter, it becomes saturated. And a saturated salt bowl in the heart of a living room is not a protector, it's a leak. So how do you correct this without giving up on energetic clarity? You shift the placement. Just a few feet can make all the difference. Instead of leaving salt exposed on display, move it to a hidden corner of the room, behind a curtain, inside a cabinet, beneath a plant stand. Let it work quietly, where it can absorb static without disturbing active chai. And most importantly, cover it. Use a thin cloth or a shallow ceramic lid. This doesn't block the salt, it contains its influence. It reduces its radius of effect and protects the field of open communication that a living room depends on. If you feel that your living room has already been affected, tense interactions, difficult conversations, unexpected family disagreements, remove the salt immediately. Replace it with something that circulates rather than absorbs. A small bowl of river stones, a framed image of a wide open space, or a flickering candle in the fire element spectrum, orange, red, amber. These radiate, they invite, they ground, and they restore the chi that salt may have accidentally flattened. Now for those who ask, can salt ever be used near the living room? Yes, but only during active clearing. For example, if you've had a stressful gathering or conflict in the space, you may use a covered saltwater bowl in a remote corner for 3 days only, with the clear intention to dispose of it afterward. The key is not its use, it's its permanence. Salt should never become a decorative fixture. It is a tool, and tools are meant to be applied with intention, then removed. In Feng Shui, misuse of symbolic materials is not a neutral act. It carries ripple effects. And in communal spaces like the living room, those ripples impact relationships, emotional patterns, and even personal boundaries within the household. Protect your altar's ability to transmit. Protect your shelf's ability to reflect. Don't let a single misunderstood material quietly absorb the very harmony you are trying to cultivate. Salt belongs in boundaries, not in centers. And your living room is not a boundary, it's a bridge between people, moments, energy, and memory. Keep that bridge clear and let the connection rise instead of being drawn into silence. That's how space supports harmony, not through holding, but through allowing. Let salt return to its rightful place and let your living room breathe again. How to place salt correctly. In Feng Shui, the power of salt doesn't come from how much you use. It comes from how, when, and where it's placed. Salt, by nature, is earth element, absorbent, grounding, and stabilizing. But that earth energy must be held in a container that respects its function. That's why the material of your salt vessel matters more than most people realize. Ceramic and clay are ideal. They are also earth-based, which means they resonate naturally with salt's vibration. These materials hold qi without amplifying or disrupting it. Ceramic vessels are quiet, breathable, and energetically neutral. They do not conflict with the salt's role as a passive absorber. Clay vessels go a step further, offering even deeper stillness. The result is an energetically consistent filter. Nothing is scattered, nothing is forced. On the other hand, metal and plastic are disruptive in subtle but critical ways. Metal is strong, conductive, and sharp. It excites qi, introduces active frequencies, and may even redirect what the salt is meant to collect. Salt in a metal container often clumps or decays faster, not just from environmental moisture, but from energetic agitation. Plastic is even worse. It insulates rather than breathes. It seals the salt's capacity to absorb, creating a barrier that looks functional but performs inconsistently. The salt inside may dry out prematurely or never function at all. Using the wrong container turns a potentially clarifying ritual into symbolic clutter. Once your container is chosen, placement becomes the next critical step. Salt doesn't belong in the center of the room. It belongs on the edges, in hidden corners near doorways, inside enclosed shoe cabinets, or along transitional thresholds, such as the liminal space between a hallway and a main room. These areas are often energetically unstable, places where external chai meets internal intention, where tension accumulates, where forgotten energy lingers. By placing salt here, you create a quiet, energetic seam, a sort of filtration zone between what comes in and what stays. Especially powerful is positioning salt at the entrance of homes that face a busy road, sharp architectural angles, or heavy foot traffic. These types of entrances invite turbulent qi. Salt here acts as a threshold guardian, not aggressively, but gently filtering what enters so the home's core remains calm. Timing, too, plays a silent but powerful role in salt's effectiveness. You are not just placing a bowl, you are setting a symbolic reset point. The most potent times to do this include the new moon, a time of fresh intention, the solstices, seasonal energy shifts, or immediately after deep physical cleaning, when stagnant qi has already been moved. Salt placed during these moments becomes anchored in the momentum of newness. You're not layering energy on top of chaos. You're positioning it into a space already prepared to receive it. There is also the salt water option, which many overlook. When used correctly, a bowl of salt water tucked discreetly into a dark corner can act as a short-term purifying tool. This is especially useful after an illness, argument, or emotionally heavy event. The combination of water and earth elements allows for both energetic absorption and emotional release. The water acts as a solvent for emotional frequency, while the salt traps residual qi. But, and this is important, this is not a long-term solution. 7 days is the maximum. After that, the water becomes energetically heavy. It should be disposed of not in the trash, but through movement, flushed down the toilet or dissolved in a running stream or sink. This method of disposal mirrors the function of the tool. You are releasing what was once held. Symbolic integrity is maintained. Finally, and perhaps most ignored, is the replacement rhythm. Salt, like a sponge, has a saturation point. You don't leave a sponge in dirty water for 6 months and expect it to clean. The same logic applies here. Salt must be changed every 3 to 6 months, depending on humidity levels, room use, and energetic density. In homes with high emotional activity, large families, home offices, or frequent visitors, the timeline is closer to 3 months. In quiet or minimal spaces, 6 months may suffice. But no matter what, the moment your salt shows signs of saturation, dampness, clumping, discoloration, or a faint sour smell, it is past due. And under no circumstances should saturated salt be reused. Not in your kitchen, not for another bowl, not to mix with fresh salt. Energetically, it is done. Its purpose is fulfilled. To force its continuation is to drag old qi into new cycles. And that, in Feng Shui, is the very definition of energetic stagnation. When you dispose of used salt, do so with care. Flush it, dissolve it. Do not toss it in the trash. Treat it not as waste, but as a full filter that has completed its task. This level of respect reinforces your home's response. It tells your space, I manage energy here with precision, not passivity. I observe, I cleanse, and I renew. The bottom line is this: salt is not decoration. It is design, energetic design. And like all tools of structure, its power is not in being seen. It's in being placed, managed, and understood. Use the right container. Place it in the right zone. Anchor it in the right moment. Replace it before it turns. And your space will speak back to you, not in noise, but in flow. Not in luck, but in clarity. That is how salt truly supports a home, not through mysticism, but through attention, through order, through intelligent, symbolic design. Giselle Bündchen's environmental energy habits. When discussing the connection between environment and well-being, few public figures have demonstrated more consistency and intentionality than Gwyneth Paltrow. Known not only for her acting career and Oscar win, but for her influential lifestyle brand Goop, Gwyneth has long advocated for clean, clear, purpose-driven living. Her approach to space is not about decorating for aesthetic trends or spiritual signaling. It is about curating an environment that sustains clarity, productivity, and emotional coherence. And at the center of that philosophy is a deep respect for environmental energetics. In multiple interviews and features, particularly in her home design collaborations and wellness publications, Gwyneth has shared her view that a home should be like a lung, gently breathing in and out with the people who live in it. Every object she selects has to serve a function, not just physical, but energetic. Her kitchen counters are bare unless needed. Her bedroom is free of electronics and over-decoration. And in shared spaces like her reading room and entryway, she uses earth tones, natural wood, and unglazed ceramics to soften the movement of qi throughout the home. She has often referenced her love for Japanese minimalism, not for its look, but for the energy it preserves. What many people don't realize is that Gwyneth also uses symbolic tools sparingly, and almost never where you'd expect. In a conversation about home rituals on her podcast, she spoke about keeping a small ceramic bowl near the back entrance of her home. Not visible, not dramatic, but consistent. Inside the bowl, coarse Himalayan salt, gently refreshed every few months. It wasn't for guests to admire. It wasn't part of a spiritual display. It was simply there, near a zone where energy shifts, between the inner home and the outdoor world. She said it helped her hold the line in transitional moments. This wasn't superstition, it was structure. The bowl wasn't meant to perform magic. It was meant to stabilize. And this is the core message. Energy doesn't need to be broadcast. It needs to be managed. Gwyneth's approach reflects a deep understanding of how overloading a space with charged items, crystals, salt lamps, incense, affirmations, can quickly backfire. Instead of clarity, the room becomes noisy. Instead of calm, it becomes conceptually heavy. That's why she chooses restraint. One bowl, one material, one placement, then she lets it work. This isn't about Gwyneth becoming rich because she placed salt in a bowl. Let's be clear, her wealth stems from decades of work, global influence, and business acumen. But the way she maintains that energy, navigates pressure, sustains emotional clarity, makes high-stakes decisions, is partially informed by how she protects the subtle frequency of her living environment as Siam, and this is where Feng Shui principles mirror her philosophy. Salt isn't for abundance attraction, it's for background coherence. It creates a subtle boundary that allows the rest of your space to breathe. Too many people make the mistake of thinking symbolic tools are supposed to do the work for them. They expect salt to erase stress. They expect a jade plant to create cash flow. But Gwyneth's method reminds us that tools only hold their function when placed with precision, intention, and rhythm. Her bowl is refreshed on a seasonal cycle, not because she believes the moon needs it, but because her home has rhythms and her habits align with them. And that's the most important takeaway from this example. Your home is a living field. It changes when you change. It contracts when you over-control it. It stagnates when you ignore it. And it supports you best when you interact with it through clean, minimal, structured gestures, not performance. So if you're wondering where to start, don't copy the objects. Copy the thinking. Choose one place in your home where energy enters or changes, a threshold, a corner between rooms, the back door. Place a small bowl there. Choose unprocessed salt. Use ceramic, not metal. Let it sit quietly. Don't display it. Don't explain it. Refresh it every few months without fanfare. Let it be part of the rhythm of your space, not the identity of it. Because like Gwyneth's practice shows, when you treat your space like a living organism, not a stage, then everything else, including clarity, productivity, and even financial stability, becomes easier to hold. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped interfering with it. That's the power of quiet environmental intelligence. And that's the real function of symbolic energy design. Not superstition, but support. Not belief, but alignment. Not decoration, but deep, sustainable coherence. The deeper reason why salt works. Salt is not a magical agent, a lucky charm, or a mystical fix. It's a stabilizer. It is not placed to invite miracles, but to establish boundaries. In Feng Shui, the reason salt continues to be relevant across centuries of spatial practice is not because it changes your fate, it's because it restores clarity to a field that has become energetically muddy. Like rinsing off a dirty surface before painting it, salt helps your environment return to a neutral, breathable state so that any effort, any direction, any new intention can take root without interference. Think of it as environmental hygiene. The same way you wouldn't sleep in sheets that haven't been washed in months or cook in a pan with someone else's leftover meal. You shouldn't expect your home's chai to support you if it's still echoing last year's grief, last week's arguments, or this morning's frustration. When you use salt intentionally, you're not asking it to change your life. You're giving your environment a moment of reset, a break from the unspoken residue that builds up in daily living. Qi doesn't stagnate in large, obvious ways. It collects quietly in corners, under cabinets, near broken electronics, around neglected objects. It becomes thicker in zones where conversations died unresolved or where decisions were postponed too long. It drags at you in subtle emotional fatigue, mental clutter, or an inexplicable resistance to momentum. Salt doesn't heal that, but it clears the noise so that healing can begin without static. It's like pressing a mute button, not on your life, but on the feedback loop between you and a space that has started echoing the wrong frequency. This is why salt works best not in central zones of activity, but in transitional, overlooked spaces, behind doors, near drains, under shoe racks, on ledges that receive no sunlight. These are the spaces where energetic confusion tends to pile up, where unresolved qi collects like dust in forgotten corners. When salt is placed there, it doesn't redirect your destiny. It simply says to your environment, I see you, I'm paying attention. I choose order over chaos. That silent choice shapes your experience far more than any affirmation. It's also important to understand that the energy salt interacts with is cumulative. It doesn't care about your mood that day or the words you say around it. It draws from the total environment. If you are trying to manifest abundance while still living in clutter, or if you light incense but ignore the broken cabinet you keep bumping into, salt will simply reflect the contradiction. It does not obey intention, it obeys structure. That's what makes it so useful. It cannot be fooled. It performs exactly according to the clarity of its placement. That's why salt doesn't belong on display. You don't broadcast hygiene. You don't show off your toothbrush. Salt, like care, is most effective when it's quiet, routine, and precise. Its job is to make space, not to be the center of it. If you start using salt in a way that demands attention, large displays, decorative jars, or ritualistic overload, you've missed its function. The strength of salt lies in its silence. It doesn't shout energy into the room. It removes what shouldn't be there so that what should can naturally return. It allows light to reach places that were blocked, not by darkness, but by congestion. This is why the analogy of the front door is so useful. Your front door isn't just an entrance, it's a declaration. It announces to the outside world who you are and how you carry yourself. A clean, clear, well-framed entrance signals receptivity. A cluttered, broken, or energetically misaligned entrance signals confusion. Salt near the door isn't there to guard you from spirits. It's there to clear the static so that the energy entering your space arrives with accuracy, not distortion. In the same way, your bed isn't just a place to sleep. It's the place where your chi rests and reforms. You bring every conversation, every decision, every worry to that bed, whether consciously or not. If salt is placed under it, it isn't neutralizing your stress. It may be suppressing your regeneration. And this leads to the deeper truth. Salt is not here to solve your life. It is here to remind you that your space is not a passive backdrop. It's an active participant in how your day unfolds. If you treat salt as a lucky shortcut, it will do nothing. If you treat it as a gentle assistant, placed deliberately, refreshed consistently, and removed when full, it will reward you with a home that breathes with you instead of against you. The moment you start thinking of salt as an energetic mop, not a charm, is the moment you begin to engage with Feng Shui in a way that honors its intelligence. Salt in this way is a test, not of your belief, but of your clarity. Are you willing to pay attention to the corners of your life? Are you willing to maintain the invisible, unglamorous systems that support your emotional coherence? Are you willing to treat your space not as a decoration, but as a field that requires your care? Because if you are, then salt becomes more than just a material. It becomes a message, one that tells the energy around you. This person is ready. This person protects what matters. This person maintains the foundation so that growth has somewhere to land. And that's why salt works. Not because it holds power, but because it holds principle. It rewards those who understand structure, those who use it not to attract luck, but to reduce noise, those who choose to manage their space the way they manage their well-being, consistently, quietly, without drama, and with just enough attention to keep things flowing in the right direction. When used this way, salt never becomes a superstition. It becomes a system. And systems, more than symbols, are what carry us forward. So use it wisely. Replace it regularly. Don't ask it to change your life. Use it to support the part of you that's ready to change things yourself. Because in the end, salt doesn't shift fate, it just clears the path. And you're the one who decides where that path leads. Final. When all is said and done, salt is just a mineral until you give it meaning. Left in the wrong place, it sits inert, gathering dust and absorbing nothing of value. But when placed with clarity, when placed with purpose, it becomes a subtle but powerful tuning fork. Not for luck, not for magic, but for alignment, for atmosphere, for flow. In a home that's constantly receiving energy from your emotions, your conversations, your stress, your guests, and your ambitions, something as humble as a small bowl of salt can quietly shape the entire frequency of your space. It doesn't force change. It allows it. It doesn't create wealth. It creates the stillness in which wealth can land. Your front door may face a busy road. Your bedroom may hold the tension of too many sleepless nights. Your kitchen may carry the weight of unspoken conflict. But none of these conditions are fixed. Energy is malleable, and the small acts you make, placing a ceramic bowl in a forgotten corner, replacing saturated salt before it turns heavy, protecting your rest zone from unnecessary absorption, are not about fixing your life. They're about preparing the soil so something better can grow. Salt doesn't fix case. It clears static. It gives you the emotional and mental room to respond to life instead of reacting to it. That's why we use it, not as an escape, but as a reset. Not as a superstition, but as a signal. Every object you place in your home is a sentence in the story your space tells. Salt, used well, becomes punctuation. It adds pause. It introduces quiet. It reminds you to breathe, clean, replace, and begin again. And this is the heart of real Feng Shui, not abstract philosophy, not mystical exaggeration, but applied intelligence. You are shaping the energy you live inside. And when your environment is aligned, everything else becomes just a bit easier. Sleep deepens, focus sharpens, conflicts soften, momentum builds. Not because of luck, because you're no longer pushing through noise. You're flowing through order. So here's the last truth I'll offer you. Salt doesn't make money. It makes space for money to arrive and stay. And the moment you begin treating your home like an ecosystem instead of a container, everything in your life begins to reflect that care. If this video helped you see salt differently, if it shifted the way you think about your space, your habits, or your energy, I invite you to do 3 gentle things. Share this video with someone who's trying to bring more clarity or calm into their home. Leave a comment telling me where you've placed salt before, or where you might try now. And subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. Your presence here helps me reach our next milestone of 2,000 followers. And when we get there, I promise to keep showing up with more content that's honest, grounded, and truly helpful. Not for show, not for hype, but for real, steady alignment. Because we don't need louder rituals. We need quieter clarity, and your space is ready for it. Let's keep building that together.